Hey everyone, tonight we're re-diving into 3 astonishing chapters of human history, stories not of kings and battles, but of ordinary people, quiet revolutions, and ideas that quietly changed everything. We'll travel back to a time before cities, before writing, even before fire was taken for granted, to walk a day in the life of a Paleolithic human. Not the cartoonish caveman of pop culture, but the real, complex, surprisingly thoughtful people who survived, created, and even told stories around the fire 30,000 years ago. Then, we lines leap forward to one of the most pivotal scientific endeavors in human history, the Manhattan Project. A secret war within a war, a race not just for victory, but for survival, where genius met destruction, and the world learned that a single flash could alter the fate of civilization. And finally, we lines zoom in literally on one of humanity's most humble yet transformative inventions, the eyeglass. From a polished rock or a monk's manuscript to smart glasses that overlay digital worlds onto reality, this is the quiet story of how we learned to see more clearly, and how in doing so we reshaped our minds, our work, and our culture. These aren't just historical footnotes, they're threads in the story of us. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The daily life of Paleolithic humans. Let's begin at the very edge of human history. No cities, no clocks, no alarms. Just the slow, grey light of dawn creeping into a shallow cave in what will one day be southern France, minus 30,000 years ago. You stir under a thick pelt of animal hide, your breath visible in the cold morning air. The ground beneath you is packed earth, layered with dried grass. It's not comfortable, but it's safe. Someone nearby coughs. A child whimpers. The fire, that flickering lifeline, is still glowing, barely. If it dies, someone will spend the next hour rubbing sticks together, hands raw and numb, hoping for a spark. This is not a survival story. This is a day story. Because for all the myths of grunting cavemen and club-wielding brutes, the real life of a Paleolithic human was something far more complex, surprisingly busy, deeply social, and occasionally, yes, a little ridiculous. So let's walk through a single day in the life of someone who lived before writing, before farming, before even the idea of home as we know it. Morning, the fire must not die. You wake up, not gently, but urgently. The first thing you do, check the fire. It's not just about warmth. It's about survival. Fire keeps predators away. It cooks food. It wards off insects, and if it goes out, that's not just a setback, that's a group emergency. So if the embers are low, you feed it dry wood, bark, maybe even animal dung if you're desperate. Someone, probably you, is on fire duty. No thanks, no praise, but if you fail, everyone will remember. Nearby, tools are scattered, spears with sharpened stone tips, scrapers made of flint, knives chipped from obsidian. You pick one up, inspect the edge. A dull tool is a dangerous tool. So you spend time, sometimes hours, flaking, grinding, testing. This isn't a chore, it's a ritual. Your life depends on a sharp edge. And then, breakfast. Breakfast, what's for breakfast 30,000 years ago? Spoiler, it's not pancakes. If there's leftover meat from last night's hunt, maybe a strip of dried mammoth or a chunk of roasted rabbit, you having a good morning. Congratulations, you've won the Paleolithic lottery, but more likely you're foraging. You'll dig for roots, scan the bushes for berries, check traps for small game. Insects, yes, they're on the menu. Roasted beetles, grubs, termites, not delicious, but reliable. And protein is protein. Water comes from a nearby stream. No boiling, no filters. You drink it raw, bacteria, and all, your gut either adapts or regrets it later. And hygiene, well, let's just say, there's no toothpaste. But people didn't have cavities like we do. Why? No sugar. But they did chew fibrous sticks to clean their teeth. Hair was long, tangled, probably full of lice, treated with ash, animal fat, or just scratching, and the smell of the cave. Let's be honest, it was distinctive: hides, smoke, unwashed bodies. But everyone smelled the same, so no one really noticed. Until someone rolled in a dead animal to mask their scent for hunting. Yes, that happened. Midday, tools, hunting, and the art of not dying. Now it's time to work. For the men and older teens, the hunt. This isn't a solo adventure. It's a team operation. Scouts go ahead. Traps are set. Pits covered with branches. Ambush points near rivers. You're after big game. Bison, wild horses, maybe even a mammoth. But mammoths don't just stand around. They charge. They trample. They don't care that you've been up since dawn. So it's loud, chaotic. Someone yells, "That's not a deer." Probably because it's a bear, and sometimes you come back empty-handed. The wind shifted, someone sneezed, the animal got away, but that's okay, because while the hunters were gone, the foragers were out, mostly women, children, and elders, gathering berries, nuts, roots, mushrooms. And here's the truth: foraging was more reliable than hunting. Plants don't run away, nuts don't fight back. And when the hunters return with nothing, it's the foragers who save dinner. They're the quiet heroes of the tribe. Afternoon, fire, shelter, and the world's first DIY project back at camp. Someone's still tending the fire. It's never done. It's a living thing. And if it dies, someone's spending the night making sparks. Meanwhile, shelter. Not every group lived in caves. Many built their own, using mammoth bones, wooden poles, hides, and mud. They constructed huts, lopsided, leaky, but functional. Wind, it gets in. Rain, it soaks the floor. Snow, it might collapse the roof, but it keeps you alive. And yes, children helped. They carried sticks, fetched water, chased birds away from drying meat. By age 10, you were considered useful. Parenting, no manuals, no strollers. Babies were swaddled in hides. Discipline was simple. Grab them before they fall into the fire. And play. Kids played with sticks, stones, feathers, learning through imitation. The one who throws rocks best might become the tribe's best hunter. The one who watches quietly may be a healer. Evening, stories, art, and the first human expressions. As the sun sets, the group gathers around the fire. This is the heart of the day. Not for warmth, not for food, but for storytelling. Someone recounts the hunt, probably exaggerating. Someone else tells a tale of spirits, ancestors, or that one guy who tried to hug a porcupine. Music, yes. Someone bangs to stones together. Another hums, a child spins in circles. It's not a concert, it's community and art. Deep inside caves, places no one lived, they painted. Bison, horses, mammoths, in red ochre, charcoal, and manganese. With fingers, sticks, even hollow bones to spray pigment like ancient airbrushes. Why? We don't know. Maybe ritual. Maybe teaching. Maybe someone just really liked bison. But here's what we do know. Those paintings have lasted 30,000 years. The huts rotted, the fires died, but the art remains. Proof that even then, humans needed more than survival. We needed to create. Night, the long dark, and the unspoken rules of sleep. Darkness comes fast. No electric lights, no lanterns, just the fire's flicker. Dinner is shared, meat, roots, whatever didn't escape. Then, stories again, singing, maybe a bone flute. Kids fall asleep first, curled up in a pile of furs. Adults linger, staring into the flames, not philosophizing, just being. Before sleep, someone checks the fire one last time, because tomorrow, it all begins again. But here's what's wild. We think of Paleolithic life as primitive, but these people knew the seasons, remembered where food grew, passed down knowledge orally 4 generations, built shelters, made tools, raised children, made art, told stories. They weren't waiting to become modern. They were modern, in their own way. They lived in a world without buttons, but full of meaning. And when you sit by your fire tonight, or your lamp, or your phone's glow, remember, somewhere, 30,000 years ago, someone just like you was doing the same thing, trying to stay warm, trying not to die, and wondering what comes next. The Manhattan Project and the nuclear age. Let's rewind to a moment, not of war, but of quiet science. -1, 1938, Berlin, Germany. To physicists Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann are bombarding uranium with neutrons. They're not trying to end the world. They're just doing their jobs, but something strange happens. The uranium atom doesn't just react, it splits. They've just discovered nuclear fission, the process of splitting an atom's nucleus, releasing unimaginable energy, and in that instant, the rules of war, power, and human survival change forever. Because now, for the first time in history, it's possible to build a bomb so powerful, it could destroy a city in a flash. And the terrifying question becomes, who will build it first? The race begins, fear, exile, and a letter to the president. The news spreads like lightning through the physics community. Among those who hear it, a Hungarian Jewish physicist named Leo Szilard. He's already fled Europe. He knows what the Nazis are capable of. And he realizes, if Hitler's scientists get this bomb first, there may not be a world left to save. So in 1939, he does something extraordinary. He tracks down the most famous scientist alive, Albert Einstein, and together, they draft a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Sir, recent work suggests that it may be possible to set off a nuclear chain reaction in a large mass of uranium. This new phenomenon would also lead to the construction of bombs. Einstein signs it. The letter is delivered. But Roosevelt doesn't panic. He doesn't mobilize the army. He forms a committee. And for a while, nothing happens until December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor is attacked. The US enters World War II, and suddenly, the theoretical becomes urgent. The race is on. Enter the Manhattan Project. In 1942, the US launches a top-secret mission, the Manhattan Project. Its goal, simple to say, impossible to believe: build an atomic bomb before the Nazis do. To lead it, they choose General Leslie Groves, a no-nonsense engineer who just finished building the Pentagon. He's tough, efficient, and he doesn't care about scientists' egos. But he knows he needs a genius to run the science. So he picks a man who quotes Sanskrit poetry, chain smokes, and speaks 6 languages. J. Robert Oppenheimer. Brilliant, eccentric, haunted. And now, the man in charge of the most dangerous experiment in human history, the secret cities. The Manhattan Project wasn't just a lab. It was an empire, hidden across America. 3 main sites, all classified, all surrounded by barbed wire. 1. Los Alamos, New Mexico, the brain, a remote mesa in the desert. Here, Oppenheimer assembles a dream team: Niels Bohr, Richard Feynman, Enrico Fermi, some of the greatest minds on Earth, many of them refugees from fascism. They live in a secret town. Mail is censored, phones are monitored. Even Vice President Harry Truman doesn't know this place exists. And in classrooms and labs, they work on one thing: how to turn theory into a weapon. 2. Oak Ridge, Tennessee, the factory, miles of buildings, giant machines. Thousands of workers, mostly young women, operating equipment they don't understand. Their job, to enrich uranium. But uranium-235 is rare. Less than 1% of natural uranium. So they try everything: gaseous diffusion, electromagnetic separation, calatrons, all to extract one ingredient for the bomb. And they do it in secret. 3. Hanford, Washington, the reactor here. They don't mine or enrich, they create. Giant nuclear reactors, built in the middle of nowhere, bombard uranium to produce a new element, plutonium. It doesn't exist in nature. Now, it's being bred ton by ton, but it's dangerous. Radiation leaks, contamination, the birth of the nuclear age. And its first environmental cost, the science of destruction. At Los Alamos, they're building two bombs. 1. Little boy. The uranium bomb's simple in theory. Fire one chunk of uranium into another, like a bullet. Trigger a chain reaction. Unleash energy equal to 15,000 tons of TNT. They're so confident it'll work. They don't even test it. 2. Fat Man. The plutonium bomb. This one's trickier. Plutonium won't work with a gun mechanism. It'll fizzle. So they invent something new. Implosion. Surround a plutonium core with precisely shaped explosives. Detonate them all at once. Within microseconds, crush the core into a super-dense mass. It's like trying to crush a basketball evenly from all sides. With dynamite. And if it fails, well, they'll find out the hard way. July 16, 1945. The Trinity test. The world holds its breath. In the New Mexico desert, at 5:29 a.m., they detonate the first atomic bomb. Trinity. The flash is brighter than the sun. The shockwave knocks people off their feet. The mushroom cloud rises 40,000 feet. One observer says, "It was like the birth of the world." Another, "The gates of hell had opened." Oppenheimer. He doesn't cheer. He whispers a line from the Bhagavad Gita. "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The test is a success. But the celebration is quiet, because they know this isn't just a weapon. It's a line humanity just crossed, and can never uncross. August 6 and 9, 1945. The bombs drop. The war in Europe is over. Germany has surrendered, but Japan fights on, and Washington has a decision to make. On August 6th, a B-29 named Enola Gay takes off from Tinian Island. Its payload, Little Boy. Target, Hiroshima. At 8:15 a.m., the bomb is released. 43 seconds later, flash, a fireball hotter than the sun. 5 square miles, gone. 70,000 people, vaporized instantly. Tens of thousands more will die from burns, injuries, and radiation. 3 days later, August 9th, Fat Man is dropped on Nagasaki. 40,000 dead, more to come. And then, silence. Emperor Hirohito speaks for the first time in history. Japan surrenders. The war is over, but the world is not the same. The aftermath, triumph or tragedy. Did the bombs end the war? Yes. Could Japan have surrendered without them? Some historians say yes, others say no. But one thing is undeniable, the moral cost was staggering. Scientists who built the bomb now face a crisis. Leo Szilard petitions to demonstrate the bomb first. Over an empty field, they're ignored. Oppenheimer, once the hero of Los Alamos, becomes a broken man. When he meets President Truman, he says, "Mr. President, I feel I have blood on my hands." Truman calls him a crybaby and never sees him again. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union, already spying on the project, races to build its own bomb. In 1949, they succeed. The Cold War begins. And for decades, the world lives under the shadow of mutually assured destruction to superpowers, thousands of warheads, one mistake away from annihilation. The legacy, science, power, and the human condition. The Manhattan Project ended in 1946, but its legacy, it's still with us. On one hand, a scientific triumph. It proved that human minds could unlock the power of the atom, that knowledge led to nuclear energy, space exploration, and medical advances. On the other, a moral catastrophe. For the first time, Humans could destroy themselves, not in war, not in famine, but in a single decision. And the question remains, can we be trusted with this power? Oppenheimer said, in 1965, the physicists have known sin. And this is a knowledge which they cannot lose. The bomb didn't just end a war. It redefined what it means to be human in the modern age. It showed us our brilliance and our fragility, the history and evolution of eyeglasses. From reading stones to smart lenses, let's go back to a time when reading a book wasn't just hard, it was impossible. You're a monk in 11th century Europe. You've spent your life copying sacred texts by candlelight, every letter, every word, a prayer in ink. But now, your hands are steady, your mind is sharp, but your eyes, they've started to fail. The letters blur. The lines run together. The scripture you once knew by heart now looks like ants marching across the page. And there's nothing you can do. No glasses, no contacts, no app to zoom in, just resignation, because for most of human history, poor vision was a life sentence. But then, something changed. Not with a bang, not with a war, but with a lens. And tonight, we're going to trace the quiet revolution that began with a polished rock and ends with a pair of glasses that can talk, translate, and maybe even think. This is the story of eyeglasses, one of humanity's most humble, yet world-changing inventions. The first glimmer, when vision became a problem. We've always known eyesight fades. The earliest medical records, from ancient Egypt, around 1500 BCE, describe symptoms of presbyopia, the age-related loss of close-up vision. But their solution: herbs, spells, prayers, no optical devices. No science. The Greeks and Romans were a little closer. Seneca the Younger, a Roman philosopher in the 1st century CE, reportedly used a glass globe filled with water to magnify text. Hold it over a scroll, and the letters grow larger. It works, like a crude magnifying glass, but it's not wearable. It's not practical. It's just a trick. Then came the Islamic Golden Age. In Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba, scholars were pushing the boundaries of science. One man, Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham, wrote the Book of Optics in the 11th century. He mapped how light enters the eye. He explained how lenses bend light. He laid the foundation for the science of vision. But still, no one made wearable lenses. Instead, people used reading stones, polished hemispheres of glass or crystal. Placed directly on the page, they magnify one line at a time. Useful, yes. Convenient, not even close. You had to press it down. Your hand would tire, and if you sneezed, good luck finding it in the straw. But for a monk, a scholar, or a scribe, it was the only way to keep reading. And then, in the fog of medieval Europe, a breakthrough. The birth of eyeglasses. 13th century Italy, sometime around 1286, in the artisan workshops of Pisa or Venice, someone had a revolutionary idea. What if we mount two lenses into a frame and balance them on the nose? Suddenly, you could read both hands free. No more pressing, no more slipping, just clear vision. The first wearable eyeglasses were born. They weren't pretty, no temples, no earpieces, just a convex lenses, for farsightedness, held together by a rivet, balanced on the bridge of the nose, sometimes tied with a string, or held in place by willpower. But they worked, and word spread fast. In 1306, a Dominican friar named Giovanni Doppian del Carpini stood before his congregation and said, "It is not yet 20 years since the art of making eyeglasses was discovered, so that one can read and do fine work." That places the invention right around the 1280s, and Venice. It became the Silicon Valley of lenses. Glassmakers on the island of Murano, already masters of crystal, began crafting clearer, more uniform lenses. Soon, every aging scholar, monk, and doctor in Europe wanted a pair. But there were no eye exams, no prescriptions. You'd go to a market stall, try on different lenses and say, that one's better. And that was your pair. Still, the impact was enormous. For the first time in history, aging didn't mean the end of usefulness. A monk could keep copying manuscripts. A doctor could read medical texts. An artist could paint fine details. Knowledge wasn't lost to failing eyes. It was preserved, and the world became a little sharper. The printing press and the spectacle boomed then. In 1450, Gutenberg invented the printing press. Books exploded across Europe, no longer rare, hand-copied treasures. Now, mass-produced, affordable, everywhere, and suddenly. More people needed to read. Merchants, traders, bureaucrats, the middle class was rising. And with it, the demand for eyeglasses. Spectacle makers formed guilds. In Nuremberg, Germany, they became one of the first dedicated optical trades. Venice and Florence followed. Lenses were still trial and error, but now they were commercial, sold by peddlers, apothecaries, even street vendors. And the design, slowly improving. Some had leather nose pads. Others had short handles, early attempts at temples. In China, people were already using silk cords tied behind the ears. Europe caught on, and by the 17th century, eyeglasses weren't just for monks, they were for everyone. The science of sight, Kepler, Galileo, and the optics revolution, then came the scientific revolution. And with it, a new understanding of how vision works. Johannes Kepler, in 1604, published Ad Vitalium Paralipomena, a book that laid the foundation for modern optics. For the first time, he explained how convex lenses help far-sighted people, how concave lenses correct nearsightedness, myopia. No more guessing. Now, lenses could be calculated. Meanwhile, Galileo and Newton were using lenses to peer into the stars and the atom. The same glass that helped a man read a book was now helping humanity read the universe. And the microscope. It revealed a world invisible to the naked eye. Eyeglasses were no longer folk tools. They were scientific instruments. And the profession of optician was born. No longer just craftsmen, now scientists of sight. The age of fashion, when glasses became a statement by the 18th century. Glasses weren't just useful. They were fashionable. Enter the temple spectacles, the first glasses with arms that hook over the ears. Invented around 1720s, suddenly, glasses stayed on. No more pinching, no more dropping, and the frames. Now made from tortoiseshell, silver, even gold. The elite commissioned custom pairs, engraved, jeweled, luxurious, and public figures helped normalize them. Benjamin Franklin, tired of switching between two pairs. Invented bifocals in the 1780s, 2 lenses in one, top for distance, bottom for reading, a simple idea, a revolutionary one. Meanwhile, the quizzing glass, a single magnifying lens on a handle, became a fashionable accessory among the aristocracy. Less for vision, more for flair. And the lorgnette. A pair of glasses on a handle, flicked open with elegance at the opera. For many, it wasn't about seeing clearly. It was about being seen. Glasses were no longer a sign of aging. They were a badge of intellect, sophistication, and style. The 19th century. Glasses for the masses. Then came the Industrial Revolution. And with it, mass production. Lenses and frames could now be made quickly, consistently, and cheaply. By the mid-1800s, you could buy glasses in general stores. Even by mail-order catalogue. No need for a specialist. Just try on a few pairs, find one that works. Suddenly, glasses weren't just for the rich. They were for everyone. Children's eyewear appeared. Public education meant more kids were reading and struggling. Teachers began realizing, maybe that student isn't lazy. Maybe they just can't see the board. And in 1862, German ophthalmologist Hermann Snellen created the Snellen chart, the eye test with the big E on top. For the first time, vision could be measured, standardized, prescribed, glasses became medical. And wearing them, no longer embarrassing. Now, it was a sign of seriousness, education, respectability. The 20th century, from function to identity, the 20th century didn't just correct vision. It reframed it. Wire rims, horn rims. Plastic frames, styles exploded. The round glasses of John Lennon. The cat-eye frames of the 1960s. The oversized aviators of the 70s. The bold, black rims of Wall Street and Hollywood. Actors like Harold Lloyd, Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn, they made glasses part of their identity. Not a flaw, a feature. During World War II, military demand drove innovation. Lighter frames, anti-reflective coatings, durable lenses, the infamous G-glasses, nicknamed birth control glasses, were issued to soldiers. Ugly, yes, but functional. Then, in 1958, a game-changer. Plastic lenses, lighter, safer, no more shattered glass. Soon came photochromic lenses that darken in sunlight, and contact lenses, offering a choice, glasses or not. By the 1990s, rimless and minimalist frames ruled boardrooms, and by the 2000s, glasses weren't just tools, they were statements of intellect, of rebellion, of style, of who you are. The 21st century, smart glasses and the future of sight. And now, we're entering a new frontier, the digital age. We stare at screens for 8, 10, even 12 hours a day. And our eyes pay the price. Enter blue light blocking lenses. Coatings that filter high energy light, reduce eye strain, improve sleep. Debated by scientists, loved by users. Meanwhile, lens crafting has gone high-tech, computer-guided precision. Customized to your eye, your head tilt, your reading distance. Progressive lenses have improved. No more blurry zones and frames. Now made from titanium, memory metal, carbon fiber, lighter, stronger, hypoallergenic. But the biggest leap. Smart glasses. Remember Google Glass? It flopped. People called it creepy, but the idea didn't die. Now, companies like Meta, Apple, Amazon are racing to build glasses that overlay digital info in your field of view, translate signs in real time, show navigation, take photos, track your fitness. This is augmented reality, and it's coming to your face. Meanwhile, adaptive lenses are in development. Lenses that automatically adjust focus. No more bifocals. No more switching glasses. Just seamless vision. And in medicine, gene therapies, stem cells, bionic eyes, retinal implants, brain-computer interfaces. For some forms of blindness, partial vision restoration is already happening. One day, glasses might not be needed. But for now, they're evolving, not just to help us see, but to help us compute, protect, filter, and express. The quiet revolution. So what's the story of eyeglasses? It's not just about vision. It's about humanity's refusal to accept limits. From a monk squinting at a manuscript to a coder wearing AR glasses in a coffee shop. We've turned a simple lens into a tool of knowledge, identity, and power. And the most beautiful part, it's still evolving. Because the future of sight isn't just clearer, it's different. And somewhere, right now, a scientist, a designer, or a dreamer is working on the next pair of glasses that will change everything. So there we are, 3 stories, 30,000 years apart, and yet they're all part of the same thread. The story of us. We began in caves, cold, awake before dawn, tending a fire like it was a living thing. We scraped hides, raised children, told stories in the flickering dark. We survived, then, we dreamed, we cracked the atom. Built machines that could end cities, and stood in silence, staring at the sky, realizing we now held the power to erase everything we'd ever built. And all the while, we kept trying to see. First, with reading stones on dusty manuscripts, then, with lenses balanced on our noses, now with smart glasses that overlay the world with data. We've spent millennia not just surviving, not just destroying, but understanding. That's the real story here. Not fire, not bombs, not glass. It's attention, the human need to look closer, to make sense of the world, whether it's tracking a mammoth across the plain, calculating the trajectory of a neutron, or reading a line of scripture that changed your life. We are the species that notices, that asks, what if? How? Why? And then builds an answer. Sometimes that answer is a spear, sometimes it's a bomb, sometimes it's a pair of glasses that help a monk keep reading long after his eyes should have failed. We are flawed, we are fragile, we've made terrible mistakes, but we've also made art in the dark. We've passed knowledge across generations without writing, we've turned pain into poetry, and we've looked into the heart of the atom and still, somehow, kept going. So the next time you wake up to your phone's glow, put on your glasses, brew your coffee, and scroll through a world of information, pause, just for a second, and remember, somewhere, 30,000 years ago, a person just like you was doing the same thing. Trying to stay warm, trying to see clearly, trying to make it through the day. And wondering what comes next. We haven't changed that much. We're still figuring it out, together. If you made it this far, thank you. If this resonated with you, I'm truly grateful. And if you'd like to see more stories like this, subscribe, not for the algorithm, but because you believe, like I do, that the past isn't just history. It's us, still becoming. Until next time, keep looking closely, and keep telling stories. Good night.